The Talos Principle is a puzzle game developed by Croatian developers called Crow Team and published by Devolver Digital. A lot of people are comparing this to Portal, and while there have been certain things in common, they are actually completely different games, and Talos Principle even does some things better than Valve's Portal. The game has a story of some sort, and it's a cool philosophy. You'll hear this voice from the sky. That's the voice of Elohim, a Greek mechanical god. You can also interact with various computer terminals scattered throughout the world. The person you have conversations on those terminals is basically the serpent. That's as much as I'll say about the story. The philosophy behind the story is really good. Look it up, or even better, play the game. Basically, in this game, as you would expect from a puzzle game, you solve puzzles. And there are some clever mechanics and ingenious puzzle solutions. I never expected this much cleverness from the people who gave us the Serious Sam games. I'm not saying that Serious Sam is a bad game, but it's a bit dumb and simplistic. Talos Principle is a very clever game. Basically, you have 3 worlds in which you solve puzzles. Every world has 7 sub-worlds, and in sub-worlds you have the actual rooms with puzzles. It sounds complicated, but it's actually not. Everything is very intuitive, and for example, when you solve a puzzle, a sign that was telling you where that puzzle was, that sign will be crossed off. That puzzle on the sign will be crossed off. In Talos Principle you collect Tetris pieces. Getting to those Tetris pieces is the hard part. Green Tetris pieces are the easiest, and they are mostly used for unlocking doors. Yellow pieces are medium difficulty, and they are used mostly for unlocking new items and new equipment. And the red ones are the toughest to solve. And you need all the red ones. In order to solve these puzzles, you'll need to use different equipment alongside with your wits. First equipment item you're gonna get is the jammer. It jams doors, turrets and bombs. Then you have the connector, which you can use to connect and power different things. Then you have the box, which can be used in many different situations. Then you have the fan, which can lift you, boxes, connectors on boxes and more. You also get the record option later in the game. When you get the record option in the game, that's where the puzzles get really creative. You also have the carry plate, which is used in combination with the record feature. The puzzles themselves are very creative and require you to get to know the room you're in and think outside the box for a solution. They aren't too hard, but some shit can get really convoluted sometimes. But it's funny how the brain works. I was stuck at a puzzle for an hour and I couldn't solve it, but when I went in tomorrow morning I solved it in the first try. I would say that the puzzles are more creative than in Portal or Portal 2. Some puzzles require tricky timing, but most of them rely on you to figure out a solution using logic, outside the box thinking and clever manipulating of items. You can also seek out hints if you're really stuck, but you have to unlock Elohim's messengers first. You can also leave your mark for other players by finding a bucket of paint and painting a pre-selected message on the wall. Talos Principle is a gorgeous game. Art style consists of nature motifs and Egyptian architecture. That sound familiar? But it fits the game nicely, and it fits the game's philosophy as well. Technically, it runs good on the PlayStation 4. I finished the game and had 0 game-breaking bugs or graphical inconsistencies. The only frame rate drop you're gonna get is when you load in a new zone or a world, or when you just get in the game. That's 5 seconds of frame time dipping. But other than that, the game runs beautifully on the PlayStation 4. It took me around 20 hours to get through all the puzzles in the game and to reach the end. The game has multiple endings, just so you know. I was really surprised when I first booted up Talos Principle. I never expected this to be such a great game, and it really is. That feeling when you finally solve a tough puzzle is a beautiful thing. This game has great but minimalistic story, great puzzle design and very clever mechanics to play around with. If I had to give a score to the Talos Principle, I'd give it 9.1 out of 10.